ever thought about what it would actually take to build a country, not over centuries, but from scratch, right now, in the middle of total chaos? It's one of the most incredible challenges you can imagine. So let's break down how it's actually done.
Okay, so just imagine for a second. The job is yours. Build a nation. But there's no government, no infrastructure. Your people are scattered everywhere. I mean, where would you even begin? That's the huge question we're digging into. And we're going to see how new states use one surprisingly powerful tool just to survive: communication.
And let's be real, the starting conditions are just brutal. We're talking about huge numbers of people forced from their homes. There's literally no functioning administration. The infrastructure is in ruins. And on top of all that, the rest of the world is probably questioning if you're even a legitimate state to begin with. All while your people are desperate for help.
So, first things first. Before you can build a single thing, you have to build trust. How do you convince the world that you're a reliable partner when you barely even have a state to speak of? Well, it turns out the answer starts with forging credibility. Let's look at two really fascinating and very different examples. On one hand, you have Timor-Leste, a nation literally rising from the ashes of a brutal conflict. And then you've got Somaliland, a stable, functioning state that for decades now has had almost no formal international recognition. Both needed respect, but they were starting from completely different worlds. And to really get the scale of the challenge for Timor-Leste, just look at this number. They were building a nation for a population smaller than many cities, a population that had been totally devastated and displaced. Every single person, every voice counted. So what did they do? They were relentless. They hammered home a single, consistent message to the world. They didn't just talk about their suffering. No, they meticulously documented human rights abuses, providing cold, hard evidence. And, this is key, they worked hand in glove with the United Nations, signaling to everyone, hey, we are a serious, responsible actor. Now, Somaliland's approach is just fascinating because they had no official channels. So they focused on professionalism, projecting this image of competence and stability. They constantly shared their story of successful peacebuilding, and they activated their global diaspora to basically act as their unofficial ambassadors, lobbying governments all over the world. And this brings home the core lessons so well. You don't need giant government buildings or a huge budget to be taken seriously. A clear, consistent voice, backed up by facts, can build the one currency that truly matters in this game: credibility. But getting credibility is just the beginning. Once you have it, you have to use it to shape your own story. Because if you don't, someone else will definitely do it for you. This is all about winning the global battle of perception. Here we've got two more powerful cases. Kosovo, which had to fight an absolute tidal wave of misinformation while its very existence was being debated on the world stage. And Rojava, that's the autonomous administration of North and East Syria, which had to explain its very unique political project to the world, all while fighting a multi-front war. Kosovo understood that the fight in the headlines was just as important as the one on the ground. They built a really smart, coordinated communications unit that just relentlessly engaged with foreign journalists and mobilized their huge diaspora to make sure their side of the story was heard in the halls of power. Rojava's approach was incredibly savvy. From the middle of a war zone, they made themselves accessible. They put fluent English speakers right out front to be the face of their movement. They boiled down their complex political ideas into clear messages anyone could get. And they basically had an open-door policy for journalists and academics, giving them direct access to tell the story. So the takeaway here is crystal clear. A compelling, well-told story is a strategic weapon. In all the chaos of conflict and misinformation, having a clear narrative can build the international understanding and support that is absolutely essential for survival. But let's be honest, stories don't feed people. So the third, and maybe the most urgent challenge, is a practical one. How do you open a lifeline of humanitarian aid to keep your population alive? For this, let's look at South Sudan in the years just before independence. They were building an entire state from absolute scratch, and their most immediate need was just survival. Their entire strategy was built around radical transparency. They didn't just ask for help, they actively made it easy for the world to provide it. They went out and built partnerships, showing international groups exactly where aid was needed and how it would be used. They guaranteed safe access for aid organizations, cutting through the red tape that could slow things down. And crucially, they invested in training their own people to communicate these needs professionally, making sure their voice sounded competent and clear, not just desperate. The lesson is simple but so profound. When you're in crisis, openness builds trust. By being clear and honest about your needs and showing what you're doing to help yourself, you make it so much easier for the world to respond. Transparency becomes the key that unlocks that essential flow of aid.
So when you look across all these different struggles, from Timor-Leste to Somaliland, Kosovo to South Sudan, a pretty clear pattern starts to emerge. You can actually distill their hard-won lessons into a practical playbook for any emerging state that's trying to make its voice heard.
Here it is, 4 key steps that all build on each other. Number 1, be consistent. Trust is built on a steady, clear voice. 2, proactively engage with the media and your diaspora. They're your global amplifiers. 3, provide evidence and be transparent. Show, don't just tell what you need and what you're doing. And finally, number 4, tell a clear political story. Don't just tell the world what you're running from, inspire them with what you're building towards.
And this isn't just a history lesson. These same principles are being put to the test right now. For emerging entities like the Karenni State in Myanmar, who are facing immense displacement and a brutal conflict, this playbook offers a potential roadmap for survival and for getting the world to pay attention. Which leaves us with a final, really fascinating question to think about. In our totally interconnected world, where perception can shape reality and a story can travel way faster than a tank, is a nation's narrative becoming its most valuable territory?